The committee of the whole is back in order. We left off at section 3, $401,207 for tomorrow studies. Section 4, GDOE miscellaneous healthy futures fund allocation, $520,000. Subsection B, health and physical education activities, the sum of $279,754. Section 5, Iquentan Salapi Principat, $1,081,000. Section 6, the sum of $1,386,000 for purchase of textbooks. Section 7, $1,005,000 for textbooks and collateral equipment. Subsection B and C about what he needs to be done in the reports. Section 8, JROTC. Any standard language? Yes, summer school fund. No objection. Section 10, website posting. Section 11, reports by the superintendent. Section 12, utilities reduction incentive. And they get 15%. All right. Section 13, budgetary transfer authority for GDOE. The superintendent may transfer funds from the appropriations made to GDOE within object categories, except that no funds shall be transferred to the personnel services, except as otherwise provided herein.
Just a quick question, Mr. Chairman. In regards to the flexibility within the personnel funding category, are there sufficient funds? I know that one of their claims is Teason High School, that they need to recruit and to hire for that particular facility. Do they have sufficient flexibility within the budgetary allocation for personnel to address that? Because obviously there's a restriction in transferring money into personnel.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Section 14, the cost savings incentive. Section 15, local funds reimbursement. Hearing none. Section 16, prior year obligations. All right, last chance on chapter 2, chapter 1. Chapter 2, part 1. None? We've gone through chapter 2, part 1. Chapter 2, part 2, University of Guam. 98% of what they had asked for. Let's see. UOG last year received $222,262,365. In the FY2015, it was going to be, UOG $34,165,196. The request or the amount allotted in the governor's budget was $35,572. In this budget, we're providing $38,074. So that goes through section 1 and section 2 of part 2. Section 3, the appropriation for scholarships, $3,599,358. Appropriation for Agriculture Development, Section 4, and Training Center, 125, 254. Appropriation for Weary Guam Hydrologic Survey, 182, 694. Appropriation for Weary Comprehensive Water Resource Monitoring Program, 155, 626. Appropriation for the Northern and Southern and Soil and Water Conservation Districts, 149, 384. Section 8, appropriation for UOG for KPRG, 89, 467. Section 9, appropriation for Guampedia, 140. Section 10, UOG Capital Improvement Funding, 500,000. Appropriated from the Guam Highway Fund to UOG Capital Improvements. Section 10, UOG Capital Improvement Fund appropriation of $1,158,000 from the Territorial Education Facilities Fund to UOG. All right, Section 12, UOG Capital Improvement Fund continuing appropriation. Section 13, appropriation to the Guam Cancer Trust Fund of $2,281,192 from the Healthy Futures Fund. Section 14, Program Revenue and Expenditure Report. Section 15, Program Annual Reports. Section 16, Scholarship, Financial Assistance, and Other Reports. Section 17, Transfer Authority for the UOG, Appropriations for Operations contained in Section 2 of this chapter. No objection? Continuing appropriation, I understand, Madam Speaker, you have an amendment.
Yes, I do, and thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to read it. The appropriations made on line 7 to delete from for the all the way to line 9 where it says UOG, to delete those words for the Student Financial Assistance Programs and Dr. Antonio C. Yamashita Educator Corps to UOG. So the new language would be that the appropriations made for fiscal year 2014 shall not lapse and shall continue until fully expended. So it's for everything. And the reason for that was because of what they were not able to get, and in which, of course, they were granted monies from USDA for their capital projects. So we want to make sure that that we'll still be able to maintain that and say in good faith to USDA that we still support what the university is pursuing. Thank you very much.
All right, just for clarification, it's going to be appropriations made to the UOG, not for, made to the UOG for
You're
fiscal
right.
year,
So
shall not lapse.
The appropriations made to the UOG for fiscal year 2014 continue on. You're right, will not lapse.
Any objection to that? Oh, Senator Nicholas?
Just a clarification, so that means all of their appropriations will not lapse? So this is basically a carryover provision for all of their appropriations?
I believe that was the intent by the speaker. Any objection? Are you satisfied, Senator Nicholas? Before we go to the next subsection, part UOG, adopted. We can move forward. Education Part 3, Guam Community College. Guam Community College last year received $17,618,361. Their allocation under the original bill was $18,536,140. This substitute provides them $19,404,461, a difference of about $1,786,000 additional. Okay? Again, this is about 98% of what they actually had asked for in their budget. And I'll note that we didn't get visited and any calls on these two sections. All right, so, all right. So in the appropriations, the 16,376 plus the others, all right? We start with the 16,376 from the general fund. And then there's 782,570 for the LPN program. The 24,000 for the lodging management program, the ProStart, on subsection C. That was the same as last year. Appropriation to the apprenticeship program of $1,132,580 from the general fund and $988,586 from the manpower development for the apprenticeship program. Federal matching grant and aid, $1,022,000. Section C, GCC Capital Improvement Fund Improvement, $100,000. Section 4, GCC Capital Improvement Fund Continuing Appropriation. Are we satisfied with the way that this thing is written, man? All right, there's none. Section 5, reports. Boilerplate. Okay. You want to add anything? No? Before we leave GCC, one last chance, anybody? Okay, GCC is adopted. Part 3. Part 4, Guam Commission for Educator Certification. In this one, you'll note that we added $51,050 for legal services. There was a request by them. I believe you received the correspondence from them. And they received their $258,000. So for section 1 and 2, part 4 of chapter 2, is there anybody wish to add anything? Hearing no objection. We've completed chapter 2. Thank you very much, colleagues. We're now moving into health. I'm waiting now. I see my chair right in front of me. Health, Guam Memorial Hospital. For Guam Memorial Hospital, last year we appropriated $17,184,873. That was just a couple of $1,000 less than what was proposed in the executive budget. But this substitute version has $20,168,043, or an increase of 2.983. We've about doubled the appropriation from from the general fund for the hospital. On Section 1, legislative intent, no problem. Section 2, the pharmaceutical fund of $9,891,947. Mr. Chairman? No. Section 3, the general fund of $6,335,160 for operational expenses. Senator Rodriguez.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And Mr. Chairman, I want to thank you. Thank OFB as well for increasing by more than half, or about half, of the appropriation from the general fund to GMH. Although you and I know, and our colleagues here know, that this, even with this increase in appropriation, that is really not enough to help with our hospital. And so, but I recognize that when we do the budget, we have to look at this holistically, and that there are other areas that I wish to address, but are found later on in the budget that I'll go ahead and move whatever we have to during that time. But just wanted to acknowledge the efforts that was put into this budget, especially on this Section 3 by you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Senator Rodriguez. Senator Nicholas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With respect to Section 3, I do have an amendment that I would like to proffer as it relates to Section 3 and Section 4. Because Section 3 is specific to general fund appropriations, what I was interested in doing was similar to what was attempted with education, but for a different reason. I am concerned about the Healthy Futures Fund appropriations, because the tax credits that were issued by the government of Guam has negatively impacted the Healthy Futures Fund balances for fiscal year 2014. And I'm concerned that going forward into fiscal year 2015, we still have about $30 million more in potential tax credit liabilities that may be issued out as a result of the Luzon landfill situation. And so I'm concerned that the Healthy Futures Fund appropriations in Section 4 may not materialize if those tax credits are in fact issued out and the Healthy Futures Fund is further depleted. So because the hospital is already a going concern and because we always prioritize health, I am interested in swapping the Healthy Futures Fund appropriations in Section 4A and B and adding them into Section 3 as a general fund appropriation. And thereafter having sections A and B of subsections A and B of Section 4 applied to the general fund appropriation to the Department of Administration, because it's the Department of Administration that's certifying these tax credits. And so if the Department of Administration is certifying the tax credits and they're being offset to the Healthy Futures Fund, I think that this will cause them to think twice and look really, really hard as to whether or not the government can actually afford the certification of those tax credits. So, Mr. Chairman, what I would like to do is increase the general fund appropriation by the $3,940,936 that's reflected in the Healthy Futures Fund appropriations in Section 4.
Thank you very much, Senator. On subsection B of 4, that may have to stay, because the enabling legislation for Healthy Futures Fund does require at a minimum $1 million from the fund. But I understand. I just wanted to point that out. So that's your motion. Is everybody clear with that? Okay.
If I could have a minute, Mr. Chairman.
Sure. We'll take a short recess.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As circulated in writing, as requested, this amendment will, it seeks to insulate the Guam Memorial Hospital Authority from any shortages in the Healthy Futures Fund that we've realized in fiscal year 2014. These shortages in the Healthy Futures Fund is as a result of tax credits that were issued by the government of Guam that were credited against the alcohol and tobacco taxes that make up the revenue stream of the Healthy Futures Fund. And so in order for us to make sure the hospital is not going to be adversely affected from any future tax credits that are issued by the government, and in order for us to make sure the hospital receives the funding that we're intending for them to receive in this bill, and in order for us to make sure the hospital is not being shortchanged as it is already a going concern as per our public auditor, I am proposing the amendment as proffered that will strike out Section 4A and have the amount there of $2,940,936 instead be added to the general fund appropriation to the Guam Memorial Hospital Authority, and to have that $2,940,936 offset the general fund appropriation to the Department of Administration. And the reason why I'm applying it to the Department of Administration is because the Department of Administration is the agency responsible for certifying the issuance of tax credits. So I think that this reconfiguration of the budget this way will have the Department of Administration think twice about the issuance or at least the authorization of tax credits, as it will now directly impact their own appropriation schedule. So the intent of this amendment is to fortify the revenues that we're providing to the Guam Memorial Hospital, and to also discourage the certification of tax credits by the Department of Administration as it relates to alcohol and tobacco taxes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Senator Nicholas. Anyone wish to be heard on this Nicholas amendment? You want to get on your microphone, please? Are you on? All right. As I understand, you have some amendments you want to correct on your amendment then.
Just on the page references, it's actually page 30, not page 31 on the first part, and it's page 31, not page 32 on the second part. But everything else is the same.
Okay. On the amendment, any? Senator Morrison?
Mr. Chair, I'd just like to get clarification on the use of the Healthy Futures Fund. Is there restrictive use and how that may be used?
Yes, the funds are supposed to be used for health education, public safety, and social programs, providing awareness for tobacco and alcohol and substance abuse prevention cessation treatment and control program,
So,
and some other provisions.
so I think, Mr. Chair, that I have to object to this amendment. It's clear, I'm not sure how, it's going to complicate the situation, how even DOA can even use this money. So I object and I call for the vote.
All right. There's been an objection and a call for the vote. All those in favor of the St. Nicholas amendment indicate by raising your hand. 4. Motion fails. Any other amendments on the Guam Memorial Hospital? Chapter 4, Senator Uggan.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, actually, it's not an amendment, just information that rightfully the people of Guam should be aware of, and also members of this body. Obviously, this contains appropriations, external appropriations, not only from the general fund, not only from the Healthy Futures Fund, but there's another fund that the healthcare chair had established a year ago, which also all of the proceeds on a continuous annual basis are remitted to GMHA, and that's the GMHA Healthcare Trust and Development Fund. So I would just make a suggestion that in the future, although it's a continuous appropriation, really it should reflect as an additional contribution on the part of the people of Guam to GMH, so that rather than the total figure that you're providing here, we can also add to that number realistically, because if you remember, Public Law 32-172, which was recently passed, allowed for the remaining 40% of those proceeds to also be remitted directly to GMHA. And that would paint a much clearer picture in terms of all the additional effort and support committed to by the members of this body in terms of providing GMHA with necessary resources to be able to continue their operations at the level that they're operating at this point in time. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Senator Uggan, and thank you for the information provided. Yes, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. I just want to follow up on that, because then were you able to capture, of course, and have it reflected in terms of revenues to be received for the fiscal year? And then hence, of course, appropriating it to War Memorial Hospital.
It's a continuing appropriation from that fund, and it depends on how much is actually brought in. You get 40% that goes to the hospital. If it's
So you have no idea how much? I mean, I'm glad that it's continuous, so we don't need to.
We're still trying to get that number. I believe. Do you have anybody have a more recent?
Yeah, we've been. I don't know if I'm sorry, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
If OFB, I don't know what's the latest numbers they have. We know as of a few months ago, it has collected about over $1 million. And so we have an official request that's been put in, actually a FOIA that's been put in, and so we're still waiting for that response from the administration.
Thank you. Senator Uggan, anything further? Madam Speaker? There has been an objection. No. Where are we? No, that was just information. On Chapter 3, Health, Part 1, Guam Memorial Hospital, any more amendments? If not, thank you. Chapter 3, Part 2, Department of Public Health and Social Services. For Department of Public Health and Social Services, last year, Public Law provided $59,368,289. The governor, in his executive budget proposal, asked for $63,723,173. The bill before you provides $64,798,173. It's a difference of about, from the governor's, it's $1 million more, but from 2014, it's a 5.4 million increase for public health and social services. And so I just wanted to just have everybody see what the whole picture was. But the summary comes $42,457,000 from the general fund, $4,635,880 from the Healthy Futures Fund, $988,124 from the Environmental Health Fund, and from Sanitary Inspection Revolving Fund about $100,050 for a total of $48,182,161, adding the federal matching. Those are the appropriations for the department. And for MIP, well, let me just, on the summary on Section 1, is there anybody who wants any further explanation on Section 1 or has any amendment to Section 1 of Part 2? Senator Nicholas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll withhold an amendment at this time because it's clear where the will of the body is, but I did want to make a statement, and that is that, again, the Healthy Futures Fund on line 11 makes up 10% of the budget for the Department of Public Health and Social Services. So if there are any tax credits that are issued that are going to offset the Healthy Futures Fund, again, we have a critical component here in health that's relying 10% of its budget on those alcohol and tobacco taxes. And so it behooves this body that if we truly are prioritizing health, we need to make sure that the Healthy Futures Fund and the 10% that it makes up for public health in this instance is going to get adequately funded. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Senator Nicholas. And thank you for that, pointing that out, because there are some protections later on, but we'll see. On the MIP, there's a sum of $15,463,933. I believe that was the amount that was recommended by the executive budget. The sum of $800,000 from the general fund and the sum of $200,000 from the Healthy Futures Fund are appropriated to the MIP to fund cancer screening, treatment, and support services. And no more than 15% of the appropriation from local fund source in this section is authorized to pay for fiscal year 2014 obligations of the MIP. Anybody have any problems with Section 2? Any amendments to Section 2? None? On the Medicaid program, the sum of $13,843,236 from the general fund and $16,448,301 from federal matching grants and aid for the Medicaid program. And in this one, no more than 30% of the appropriation from local funds is authorized to pay for 2014. And to protect this small amount, the funds allocated and authorized in this section are not subject to the transfer authority of Imagalahi, just so it's clear that we put that in there. Any objection, Senator?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I was informed by the department that they had actually requested additional funding, additional funding when they submitted their budget to the administration for Affordable Care Act funds, which is a total computable of about $26 million. And I want to just ask if OFB has any information about that and why it never reached us here. It never reached OFB. It never reached us here in this body.
Yeah, the funding in the bill, as it's stated here, is straight from the budget digest that was submitted by Public Health.
Okay, so I know from our office knows that there was additional requests that were made, and I know, Mr. Chair, you're one that always puts people on the challenge too. I think you said that they owe you trips around the world 3 times over. And so what they've done is actually submitted a budget that, that is requesting what is needed. And so, you know, all these problems we're having with the Guam Memorial Hospital and our private clinics not accepting MIP or Medicaid patients is because we're not paying them on time. Or, you know, we're not paying them on time, or we're not paying them at all. And so I think, you know, I don't know where we can find, I think the total local match requirement, you know, that is needed is about 14 million. And so, you know, we've been working on this for the past few days, and I just don't see where we could find 14 million. But I think I want to go on record to let our colleagues here know that what we've done a month or so ago, when we came in here to try to bail out the Medicaid, is going to happen again to us down the road, unless we're able to find this source of money at this point. So we know this fiscal year, the first quarter of this fiscal year, Medicaid was belly up. And so without having the resources, we're going to have to come back here again in a few months to address that.
And, Mr. Chairman, you were chairing at the time, and I kept asking that question, and they kept insisting that they had sufficient money, and I asked about an optimal budget, and I wasn't getting any answer on that one either, them to budge on it. And just for the public's awareness, the budget, the request from Public Health never came to the legislature, that additional amount. It went to Adelup, but it never made it here. And what we're providing here is exactly what Adelup has in the executive budget. We didn't reduce it. In fact, we increased it. So.
Yeah, no, I completely understand. As I wanted to go on record so that our people know as well that it was not this body, not OFB, that had removed it. But my understanding is that this fund request for ACA funding was submitted to the executive branch. However, that was not incorporated into what they submitted to us. And so just, again, another warning that we're going to come back here in a few months to have to deal with that situation.
Thank you very much, Senator, for that clarification. So on Section 3, Medicaid program. Section 4, Child Health Insurance Program, $2,237,000 from the general fund, and $5,105,000 from federal matching grant and aid. Anyone wish to speak or make any amendments on Section 4? Subsection A. Oh, Section 5, program authorizations. Subsection A, $9,442,266 from the general fund to Division of Senior Citizens, and $2,964,000 in federal grants and aid. And this is exclusive of an additional million that is elsewhere. Oh, it does. It includes your million. Yes. All right. Anybody wish to add anything to subsection A? Subsection 1, 2, and 3, 4 of section A? None. Subsection B, the sum of $2,662,408 from the general fund to the foster care program. Any amendments, comments? Seeing none. Public assistance program payments up to $2,726,092 shall be allocated and authorized from the general fund appropriation for 2015 for this public assistance program payments, and $1,220,522 from federal matching grants and aid. Any amendments to, for section 6? Section 7, $553,000 from the Healthy Futures Fund to the Department of Public Health and Social Services for the community health centers. Any comments? Thank you. Section 8, Enhanced Allotment Plan, $706,000. And $844,000 from federal grants and aid. Any amendments to Section 8? Section 9, if only there was any left over to carry over. We're allowing the carryover in the event that there's anything. None? Section 10, appropriation to the Guam Cancer Registry of $152,079 to the University of Guam for the MOU between UOG and Public Health to collect the data and maintain the Guam Cancer Registry. Any amendments? Section 11, prompt payment of MIP patients generated, claims generated at the Guam Memorial Hospital. This is was this just recently passed, for 45 days? No change. Section 12, Office of Minority Health, $120,000 for the operation of the office for fiscal year 15. None? $100,550 for the Division of Environmental Health Laboratory. Seeing none. Section 14, appropriate $75,000 for the purpose of employing a program coordinator to put together the preschool. Senator Yamashita.
Thank you very much, Vice Speaker. Mr. Vice Speaker, I have an amendment that has been passed around. I hope that it reached you. Did you give him one? Essentially, Mr. Vice Speaker, this ensures that the program coordinator that's hired will also research and apply for federal grants and other funding opportunities to help sustain the universal preschool program. We know there's a lot of grant opportunities out there, and we wanted to specifically state that that would be one of the duties of this person. But I'm sorry you don't have an amendment. It should have already been passed out. We have it, but they don't have it. Yes, yes.
All right, the new language is after program online.
Oh,
On line 1 of page 38, put in
thank you.
collaboration with other early childhood serving entities, the preschool program coordinator shall conduct research and apply for federal grants and other funding opportunities available to help sustain a universal preschool program. With that amendment, anybody wish to speak on the Yamashita amendment? Yes. No. In collaboration, I'm sorry. Yeah, I probably misspoke. I'm sorry. The language is in collaboration. Okay. On the Yamashita amendment, any objection to the Yamashita amendment? On section 14, as amended by the Yamashita amendment, any objection? None.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Before we move on to Chapter 3, Part 3, if we can just go back to the beginning of Chapter 3, Part 2, Section 1.
All right,
And just a technical amendment at the, on line 4, where it says the sum is composed of $41,382,607. And I think the amendment here would be to reflect the $42,457,607.
okay. Thank you very much for catching that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
No objection to that correction? All right, so it's 42. Thank you.
Also, Mr. Chair, the Healthy Futures Fund amount needs to be adjusted.
Pardon?
The Healthy Futures Fund amount in the same section.
Yes. That one's correct, I believe. It's sum of all three, all four.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. So, Department of Health and Social Services, any further amendments? If not, Chapter 3, Part 2 is completed. Chapter 3, Part 3, Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness Center. I believe we've corrected and reinstated there. No? That's in a... The amount proposed in this is $21,266,151. And there was a reduction of 688,941, but that's been corrected in a later section. All right. Any objection to section 1? On the detox and rehab program 1.2, on expenditures related to federal management team, $1.5, wow. Okay, thank you. Anything else to Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness? If not, we're through Part 3. Part 4, Department of Integrated Services for Individuals with Disabilities. This amount comes straight from the executive budget without a reduction. Do you have an amendment, Senator Lim Tiakul? Oh, okay. I thought you were asking for an amendment form. Okay, for a different, okay. I just didn't want to. All right. Any amendments to this section? If not, Chapter 3, Part 4, DICID is hereby approved. Chapter 4, the Unified Judiciary. In 2014, the judiciary received $28,350,582. When we prorated what was left over after the executive budget was provided and we had to divide between the judiciary, the legislature, and DOE, the pro rata share of the judicial branch would have been $26,952,917 as per the original budget. This substitute budget provides $31,456,760, or an increase of $4,503,000. Besides having a competitive wage increase, they had attorney increases, and they had law enforcement officers. It's been fairly substantial. Mr. Chairman of Judiciary, you're recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And Mr. Chairman, I believe you highlighted the variance between this fiscal year's allocation and next fiscal year's allocation in terms of an increase of $4 million. So I just want to thank you for recognizing the law enforcement compensation that was increased by 20% and initially applied in December of last year, and then also the competitive wage, which was inclusive of the attorney's fee. So, Mr. Chairman, if we look at the original figure that you had shared with us, I think we need to be very mindful that there were subsequent legislative measures that were passed outside of the fiscal year 14 budget that included a $900,000 compensation for law enforcement, and then also the most recent legislation that we passed within the last 60 days that also provided the resources for the competitive wage. So that all-inclusive, I believe it's reflective of what their requirement is going into the next FY. So I thank you very much for your effort and OFB in terms of addressing some of the requirements through the judiciary. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
We tried as well as we could to provide for all the warrant bodies that had competitive wage, law enforcement, and attorney salary increases. The judiciary also handles the alternate public defender attorney's fees, and we provided $1,018,412 for the operation of that. I'm sure some of you got called about the shortage of 82,000. The 82,000 in there, yes, is it? Yes. Yes. The 82.
The 83,000
Yes.
was addressed in this. Thank you
Yes.
very much, Mr. Chair.
On section 2, Madam Chair, Madam Speaker.
My question is, and I don't know if this is addressed, but there's been an implementation, of course, of this translators for the courts, and that there was they've discussed an increase, a need to be able to get other translators in the other languages. Was that also a part of
It's in the
this?
main budget of the judiciary.
Okay,
It's
thank you
not a
very-
separate one.
All right, thank you.
The judiciary made a request for drug and therapeutic courts of $1,383,439 from the general fund. That's section 3. Anyone? The family visitation section, center of $145,000 from the Safe Streets Fund, and $11,000 from the general fund. $11,000 from the general fund on this one for the visitation center. Any? Section 5 is transfer authority of the unified judiciary. Section 6, Judicial Building Fund, 2015 budget. Provide reports. Any objection? Judicial Building Fund revenues and expenditure report, 30 days after the end of each quarter. Hearing none. Unified Judiciary authorization to fund any operational shortfall from fund sources under its control, including funds held in trust. Excluding funds held in trust, but transfers from the Judicial Building Fund must be consistent with the covenants and provisions of the loan document. That's boilerplate. I'm sorry.
Just a quick comment in regards to this. Mr. Chairman, I was looking at initially proffering some flexibility language. If you recall, a few months back, this body had enacted legislation or passed legislation that creates the Veterans Treatment Court. And about 2 months ago, they had submitted documentation requesting for federal grants. So I was going to proffer an amendment to provide that flexibility, but I think it's best if, in fact, we hold back until such time that they hear on any word on the receipt of the federal grants. But it looks somewhat promising, so I just wanted to refrain from incorporating that into the budget, but that may be a subsequent flexibility provided to the judiciary if, in fact, it's necessary. So I just wanted to assure our colleagues that that's not a law that has been set aside, but we are still waiting, or the judiciary is still waiting a response on whether, in fact, they would receive federal funds to initiate the implementation of that program. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much for that information, Senator. So Section 8, Section 9, continuing appropriation, unallotted and allotted but unexpended balances of appropriations from the general fund to the judiciary for prior years shall not revert to the general fund and shall be available until fully expended. No objection? Great. We've now gone through. On the executive branch, on Section 1. On the office of the governor. Okay. Subsection A, Office of the Megatlahi. Commission on Decolonization, 316, 575. Same.
So you're saying that the 300.
Oh, I'm sorry. It was 220. It's been increased.
220? 220?
$96,068.
96,068. Okay. And did they say what that $96,000 was to be used for, the request?
Salaries.
Salary for who? How many? There's only one person there.
No, I think there's 3.
There's 3 now?
Yes.
And what are they?
There, I think there always has been 3.
Wait, so I thought there was no salary increases at all?
For, not for the special assistants, but for their classified employees, yeah.
So there are 3 classified employees. You know, I was actually, when I saw the amount, I was kind of happy that there was going to be an increase. And especially, of course, with several things that's just occurred that we as a colony have no say-so in the matter. And there are 2 very important issues that I think could at least spark some discussion about for this commission actually to undertake. And as you know, Mr. Vice Speaker, that you've been concerned about this too. The 2 things that has happened is the August 1st signing of a treaty between the United States and FSM, of course, setting the boundaries to have an equidistance of their EE zone, which actually would take part of the Marianas Trench. And, you know, and of course, I'm having that personally actually being researched, find out what international laws have to say about that. In addition, again, there was a briefing by the President of the United States basically delineating the difference between a constitutional citizen, U.S. citizen, versus a congressional U.S. citizen that, you know, what Congress gives, Congress can take away. And then again, we're never at the table, and the Commission on Decolonization can't move forward with the additional monies that they're going to need, especially for education. And I'm not saying that whoever these 3 individuals are, that, you know, they're not, you know, working really hard, but at the same time, I'm appealing then to OFB, not necessarily, I know not now because we have a balanced budget, but we're going to have to very seriously put some money in for education on the 3 political status. Otherwise, we'll never be able to discuss any of these issues that everybody else, every other leader in the world are discussing, and we're just going to sit and accept it.
I stand corrected. I apologize.
Okay, so.
The committee report states that the overall increase in the Commission for Decolonization is an increase in contractual service of $100,000, is meant to conduct a public education program for the plebiscite vote. More specifically, it is stated that the money will be used for 3 task forces to develop and produce education material for the use of a de-education phase of the decolonization process. Additionally, the monies will be used by the Commission to assist in symposia, conferences, and seminar events relative to decolonization. So I believe we're addressing your concerns.
Okay, thank you. But that does not include, of course, and I just want to make sure is that we can't, I mean, as much as I know that people want to travel as well to the United Nations, but at this point in time, education is right now critical.
The overall travel for them was a total of 6,300. I think that's like 2 trips. All right?
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. And just for the information of the body, this is exactly what the governor asked for. I did not reduce it. Okay? No objection? On the Guam Ancestral Lands Commission, again, on the Guam Ancestral Lands Commission, this is as was requested. There was the governor asked for, last year was $98,060. This year the governor asked for $116,182, and this substitute bill provides $116,182. Okay? So we did not reduce the governor's, this is all within his office, so in deference, we did not touch it. All right? It's a 0. Okay? Exactly what he was asking for. So Guam Ancestral Lands Commission. Veterans Office. Last year it received 619. The governor requested 619,379, and this bill provides 619,379. Again, we did not reduce the governor's request for this office within his office. Senator Ogden?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. To the recollection of our colleagues in terms of the actions of this body, coming into this fiscal year 2014, we had doubled, as a legislative body, the budget for the Guam Veterans Affairs Office. So it was previously 300-some thousand, and it was increased to 619,000. Based on the staffing pattern that was submitted, they have recruited or are in the process of recruiting up to 10 total personnel within that particular office. So that would leave them with about approximately $134,000 of operational funds that could otherwise be utilized for GVAO requirements for the fiscal year. So I just wanted to share that with you, and that's aside, Mr. Chairman, from the additional $260,000 that we just authorized as a matching component to refurbish some of the administration office of the Veterans Affairs. So that's all inclusive in terms of the additional support that has been provided by this body to the Veterans Affairs Office. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Anybody else wish to make a comment or ask any questions on Veterans Affairs? Again, there was a 0 from the governor's request. Senator Snickles.
The governor's request was to 0 out?
No. The governor's request is exactly as is stated here.
As stated.
We did not decrease it. We did not increase it. On BBMR, last year the BBMR received $1,210,806. The request was $1,557,058. The recommendation was $1,412,740. The decrease was 144. But it's still an increase from of 201,000 over what it had received last year. And we've now created the executive pool, so we've addressed that, yeah. Okay? So I just wanted to make it clear on the record that we had decreased it, but we're taking care of it elsewhere. Okay? BBMR? Civil Service Commission.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
do you know if this budget will allow for the administrative law judge that's being contemplated?
You know, we have not addressed it, unfortunately. We've had the hearing, but it's not out. We'll have to find some way of being able to fund that.
Would it be appropriate, I mean, that bill is already at a public hearing, to put that as a rider, basically authorizing that position? And then we'll have to cross the bridge later in the funding of it.
Okay. Well, maybe not. It will deal with the miscellaneous provisions for an ALJ for them.
In the miscellaneous, yeah, in the miscellaneous provision.
Appropriations, okay?
Okay.
But thank you very much for pointing that out. And
All right.
we should be able to do that.
No objection to the Civil Service Commission.
Department of Administration. We'll just go through it. Okay. Department of Administration, G1 appropriation, $10,249,000. Of which $9,177,505 from the general fund and $1,072,031 from indirect cost fund. We also addressed the decrease here in a different section. So any objection to G1? Support in child custody of $675,386. The residential treatment fund of $1,006,000. Yes. When I was there, it was only $1 million. Unfortunately, the off-island care is costing us quite a bit until behavioral wellness can get itself together to bring all these kids back. We're going to have to pay for the off-island treatment. Last year was 1.1, and so there's almost a 50% increase, but we're hoping that behavioral wellness will address that. Okay? Subsection 3, residential treatment. The government claims fund of $250,000. This is an increase also. By $150,000, unfortunately. I mean, yes.
Yeah. The reason why, Mr. Chairman, I asked how much the increase was because my understanding is that as of May, they had already exhausted the $100,000 that was allocated for fiscal year 14. So there are claims out there that still need to be addressed.
Yes.
Thank you.
Last year it was $100,000. This year we're providing $250,000. All right. 4 is okay. 5. The audit. Of $377,000. This is the same as last year's. Subsection 6, single audit for TAF of $18,000. $18,000 for the audit of the Guam Highway Fund. Training, $25,000 from the indirect cost fund for the purpose of training for Department of Administration. Nine, Office of Technology, the sum of $2,972,707. No objection? Oh, thank you, the godfather of, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much. I know that this Office of Technology was, of course, created by this legislature. My question is that how do we get up to $2.9 million from a very new office? Can you give us a little explanation in terms of what the $2.9 million is for and what was it prior to?
That was, it used to be 2 million. Their budget request has gone up by a million. It's a fairly substantial increase. It's a, I can say, okay. Senator Nicholas.
Mr. Chairman, could you please inform us what the 2014 appropriation was?
2 million.
And this was strictly for Office of Technology, not necessarily for data processing?
Inclusive
of data processing. So now they're requesting $972,707 more for Office of Technology and data processing.
Correct.
I have issues, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
I've introduced legislation to require a data backup protocol in this government, and I was told that all I needed to do was pick up the phone and call and find out what the status was. I've even written letters asking what the status is of a data backup protocol in this government, and I don't get any kind of a response. I don't know if we've adopted one. I don't know if one's being worked on. I do know that we created this Office of Technology over 1.5 years ago, and now they're asking for $1 million more, and I haven't seen any kind of work product, at least with respect to what I've been asking for. I've also introduced bills to create an electronic communications protocol in our government so that our agencies can be talking to each other and we can be having online meetings versus everybody having to drive around. And I don't know where that's gone either, Mr. Chairman. I also introduced legislation for a document transfer protocol so that we can adopt a protocol for mailing confidential information via electronic means so that we don't have to have runners going all over the place and dropping docs and having them signed off. Mr. Chairman, I love the idea of the Office of Technology. I am a little put off that the efforts to legislate progress in this office is rebuffed and comments are made that we need to communicate and talk to them more, and then all of a sudden we come here to budget season and they want $1 million more, and I don't even know what's happened over the last 1.5 years. So if anybody can clarify for me exactly what this $972,000 extra is going to go for, and what have we gotten for the last fiscal year of the $2 million that we've already spent. Because we've created this, I want it to succeed, but I'm not quite sure where we've gone or where we're going. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
In the committee report for the Office of Technology, there is a increase for contractual services of $239,631 for service contracts under the Office of Technology for maintenance costs and health actuarial consultant contract. There was an increase of $390,000 to capital outlay relating solely to the Office of Technology for servers, backups, ups, and equal lodging SAN. And yeah, the personnel is 2 million. Oh, I mean, oh, that's total. Okay, but for the Office of Technology, those were the major increases. the
Mr.
capital outlay. Oh, Senator Morrison?
Mr. Chair, I want to clarify that we all understood that there is that this is not new money. There was actually the data processing and unit there that basically combined with the information office that was built into the governor's office at the time. Now, this budget has slowly become separate from DOA, as we all understood that it will go into a more of a process of transition. Hopefully, where we can get it to a level where we can fully fund it. I mean, we look at the mandate; it's a huge mandate, and we all had an understanding because of fiscal constraints, we could not fully fund that office. I know the request, my understanding was to fully fund and execute that mandate will be around $5 million. That was my understanding. So I think we are working towards getting that office to a level where it could be a functional office. And I know many of us didn't want to, I think the speaker also mentioned we didn't want to have this office built into DOA at that time. But again, because of fiscal constraints, we had to do it that way. My understanding is this is not new money. I believe this is an office becoming now separate from DOA. And these are kind of combined monies now from out of data processing, now out of the office that was built in the governor's office, and also out of DOA. So that's my understanding of why it looks that way, but it's not new money.
Thank you very much. Senator Nicholas? Is that satisfactory?
And I need a clarification here. My understanding is in 2014, the amount was $2 million?
$2,042,472.
$2,042,472. And now we're asking for another $930 million more, $930,000 more for this office.
Correct.
And of that $930,000 more, $390,000 is for capital outlay for servers and stuff like that, and then $239,000 is for contractual services.
Correct.
And do we have any kind of explanation as to how these are going to resonate in improved services in the government? $390,000 can buy 390 very good computers for our kids.
For clarification, Mr. Chair.
Hold on a second, let him finish.
So I really would like an explanation as to what this increase of the $972,000 is for. And the reason why I'm being a stickler on this, Mr. Chair, is because I have introduced stuff throughout the course of this term to try and get this office to move in a direction that I think would help us improve our technology services. And I was repeatedly told that to let them do their job. And yet here we are, I haven't seen any kind of work product, and we're going to give them $1 million more. And that's asking a lot from me, especially when we can put that $1 million into all kinds of other places. So if somebody can explain to me where that $972,000 is going in terms of these two areas, capital outlay and contractual services, how is that actually translating into benefits for the technological goals and objectives of our government? Because, I mean, did they even collaborate with other agencies? Is there some kind of grand master plan they're trying to execute to improve technology in our government? What is going on here? Because $1 million is not small change. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Again, Mr. Chair, there is a lot of, I appreciate the comments by the previous speaker. There's a lot of collaboration going on throughout this government, the Office of Technology. Again, if you look at DOA's budget, it's kind of reflective of where the reduction was that was moved out of DOA and moved into the Office of Technology. So you would see that. That's where I'm trying to explain that I understand the sentiments of the previous speaker, but this is what we're doing with the budget. All those things and that he's explaining, yes, they're outlined in the mandate of the Office of Technology, but this is where we're helping them because of fiscal constraints, those provisions within the mandate, they're crippled. They're crippled. So now that we are shifting and moving these funding sources that were normally in DOAs or data processing. Now we're moving it all into the services so they can execute what the previous speaker has been talking about. So they were under constraints. We all knew that going into it. So I appreciate his comments, but I hope that at the same time what we're doing here, he understands that that's what we're trying to do, is to help them out so we can make this office a lot more efficient and support them in executing the mandate. Again, this is not new money. It's reflective DOA, and if you look at the contractual services and the outlays, it's also a reduction in DOA's budget as well. So again, there is a transition phase taking place here.
Can we have Senator Rodriguez comment first, and then we can go back to you? Senator Rodriguez.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I too am concerned about the large increase that this office is set to receive in this budget, especially when we've said earlier that we have DOA who has took some cut. You have BBMR who has taken some cut. I understand Revenue Tax has taken some cut, but then it's being addressed in a section later on in the budget. And so if we don't have the proper answers, at least to satisfy, how this $1 million is going to be spent, I suggest that we move, to use this increase to go back and fund these other areas at DOA, at Revenue Tax, at BBMR, and there you go, $1 million that will go a long way to renovation of the hospital, as my good colleague, my neighbor to my right, has stated. And so, Mr. Chair, if I can just get someone to yield and answer, it was said that this is money, this existing money that was at DOA, and now it's being separated. So if someone can just elaborate on that.
Okay. The 2 million, if we just say, accept that last year they had 2,040,000, all right? So if we keep that as constant, as a base, there is a 240,000 for contractual services and a 390 for capital outlay. That's 630. The difference is about 340. So we know where that difference is. We know there's 340 there. I'm not hinting to anybody, but if you're looking for someplace else that you want.
Mr. Chair, just a point of inquiry to make sure your numbers, so it is for contractual service, 231,000?
239,600.
239.
So I say 240.
240, okay. I just wanted to make sure. So the difference or the increase is 340,000?
The difference is 340, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Speaker. Maybe we could all better understand the whole situation if we knew why the $2 million was sitting.
No, it wasn't sitting. That was for the operation of the office.
But so this wasn't a carryover? Oh, this was in the DOA budget?
Yes.
I see, and it's being
as part of
carved
the
out.
Office of Technology. The Office of Technology's operation was 2,040,000 last year.
I see. 2 million, okay.
So did that reduce DOA's budget by 2 million then?
No, the Office of Technology's budget was kept in, as requested by the governor, was kept intact. The reduction came in other parts of DOA's budget, but it's since been addressed.
But there's no way.
Because we funded all the warm bodies in the Office of Technology plus their 2 contracts. And the only place that we took the amounts that came out, I think 1.2, was it 1.2 reduction from DOA? Yeah, a 1.2 reduction from DOA was in vacancies that they had, but some of that has been or is going to be proposed to be restored in another fashion. Yeah. Sure, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I would move that no, it's can we call for a brief recess, Mr.
Sure.
Chair?
Recess. Order. We may need a further clarification. And did you want to discuss this further? But I think that we should have it on the record. It was already taken care of. We've already gone past judiciary. They got plenty of money. They can, if they need to, they can take it. Oh, that's fine. They can hear me. I'm already getting accused for taking care of them too much. So we have provided for them. They're taken care of. On this, can we just have an explanation of what some of the capital outlay was?
Mr. Chair, according to the budget digest for Department of Administration, the increases in the Office of Technology were inclusive of $930,000, $200,000 of which was related to personnel costs, $240,000 related to contractual services, $100,000 related to utilities, and $390,000 related to capital outlay. And this capital outlay was inclusive of servers, backup ups, and Equalogic SAN, which is just storage capabilities for the Office of Technology. That makes up the $930,000 increase.
That's the total of 930. That is the DOA budget. They stuck it in there.
So it's actually they're basically taking it from DOA's budget, and so it's not new money as such.
No. It's inclusive of both areas and data processing.
Okay.
Senator,
So the Office of Technology is subsidizing the Department of Administration's
it's not
utility
subsidizing.
costs?
They are covering the cost of some of the operations.
Yeah, and that's all of that's pretty problematic for me, Mr. Chairman, because when we want to be clear about what we're investing in something like technology, we don't want that to all of a sudden become a way for us to in a roundabout way, put different item categories so that one other budget looks lower than another budget because we're putting it under this section versus under some other section. I mean, that's the kind of accounting stuff that just, it doesn't give us a clear picture as to how much we're really investing in something like technology. So perhaps we can bookmark this and move on.
Well, I don't think we can move on. What I would be willing to do at this point is, because of the hour, I will use it since it's before 5. If the body has no objection, I'd like to go into a recess until tomorrow morning. I will immediately call Department of Administration to come over and explain this to me in detail, and maybe if necessary have them come in tomorrow morning and explain it to you, all of you. But I want to find out the answer, because I don't want to take money from them that's going to cripple them. And so if there's no objection to us taking a recess until 9 tomorrow morning. Thank you. Can you help me